Okay, so first of all, the actual definition of reactive. I mean, reactive actually is a very general word. What we mean is I mean, it's natural. If a dog barks a couple of times and the doorbell goes, fine. I mean, that's what you sort of expect, isn't it? Sort of sensible reaction because the dog is being a dog. It's when they overreact, really, when they bark too much and when things get out of hand. It'd be quite understandable if we had suddenly heard something go, oh, what's that? But we don't then have to have a meltdown. So I think so reactive really, what we're talking about for now is things which are alarming the dog can't cope with, because the other sort of reactivity is when they're perhaps overexcited or frustrated and they're going to react, but we're not looking at that. We're looking at the ones which are alarm based. Okay. So that's what we're looking at to begin with. But one thing which I think is not really considered quite enough is the link between noise sensitivity and pain. There was an article, funnily enough, I read today, and the heading was, "Could noise sensitivity in dogs be a cry for pain relief?" And it says researchers believe that undiagnosed pain could be exacerbated when noise makes a painful dog tense or jump. Because, of course, the noise, dog jumps, causes the dog pain, and so it makes the dog then associate the noise with something bad, which makes the noise 10 times worse, if you see what I mean. It's a very opposite of counter conditioning, where we try to pair the thing the dog is frightened with something good. Do you see? So that's it's all about a study here with scientists that undiagnosed pain can be exacerbated when auditory stimuli make the dog tense or jump, placing extra stress on muscles or joints that already are inflamed, causing further pain. So the thing about over here, I think in America they're a lot better with medication, Rachel, than they are over here. Vets and even us, we're much more reluctant to get our dogs medicated, I think, than you are from the people I've met. And so our vets, you take the dog along to the vet, say, I'm worried my dog might be in pain. And the vet does all the usual things, it feels with it, looks in his mouth, takes his temperature and all the rest of it, says, no, there's nothing wrong with your dog. Well, it's not thorough enough in my mind. Because if I was in pain and I was dumb and I couldn't gesture or anything, and I went to the doctor and the doctor had to find out where I hurt, if I had a pain in my tummy or somewhere deep, he probably wouldn't find it, would he? So so I think the very first thing, if you've got a dog that is too reactive to things, oh, look at this, overreactive, is to check for pain. And one way of doing it, and a lot of vets will do this, they do a pain elimination test, which basically is give the dog painkillers for a couple of weeks or a week or so, and just in case, and see what happens. I mean, it can't really do any harm if it's at a sensible level. And if the behavior really changes, then we know that somewhere there's pain. So that's the first thing. So when we look at how to deal with it, so I just sort of go through all the options before we get to my idea, okay? Its first thing is management. Management's really actually, before we go on, Gail, would you mind telling us what your dog reacts to?
Well, the Cocker Spaniel really hates the ninja.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All because once he was caught out because it's a pressure cooker one.
Yes.
So he was quite happy with it going doodle whatever. And then one day he was walking through the kitchen and it went
right.
And now he won't come anywhere near the kitchen when.
Oh, right.
So as soon as he hears that doodle when I turn it on, he's gone.
Would you say he's generally noise sensitive?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you an example of where management is important. For instance, if a dog is very reactive to people and other dogs, if your dog then sits in the window watching people and dogs going past, bark, 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 go away, go away, go away, then he's rehearsing. First of all, he's getting all worked up. Then he's rehearsing the behavior you don't want. And then when you go out and he starts barking at people and dogs, he's been rehearsing it. There was no way you can change that situation at all. So you have to start with management by either keeping him away from front windows or putting something on the window so he can't see out. Do you see? So it's a bit, I don't know how you can use management when you're ninja thing. I think it's possibly you are, because you keep him out of the kitchen when you've got the thing on. I mean, that's the obvious way to manage that one. There was something else, wasn't there, Gail, which
The fireworks.
Fireworks, right? Well, that wait for that, because this plan of mine is really good for fireworks. Okay,
But
and what about you?
my other dog is like the one in the window that's bark, bark, bark.
Well, consider if it's getting him all aroused. If you don't want him to bark, or when people come to the house, or when you're out, what is happening? Of course, he's barking, go away, go away, go away, and they go. So he thinks, right, that's the way to get rid of people and dogs. I will bark.
Yeah, or they come in and he jumps all over them.
Yeah, but that may be welcoming, probably is, but it's also anxious, because you know it's not natural to be quite so excited, is it?
No.
You know, it's sort of, yeah. And of
We
course,
are working on that.
yes, I think you start by stopping him seeing out the window. You can get that window frosting and just put it on the bottom bit where he sees out. You can see over the top. It doesn't keep the light out. And I think you could find after a bit it makes quite a difference if you put some of these things we'll talk about into place. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Rachel? What about
we did that with the plastic film on the lower part of the windows, and it just helps so much.
It's a huge difference, doesn't it?
So, oh yeah. That was that changed things. So
that is the best example of management, really. It's a really good example of management.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So finding out whether checking for pain, I would say, is your number one thing. If it's noise sensitive, it seems to be a thing to do with noise rather than generally, and also using management. Now, the thing which and probably Rita will be a bit bored with this, because I know we've been through this with her before as well. The thing with management, if the dog is frightened of something and jumpy with something, whether it's fireworks, whether it's somebody going past, whether it's the ninja cooker, whether it's, I've been to dogs that duck at the microwave, beep, and that sends them into a frenzy. There's all sorts of funny things which get dogs worked up. Now, the normal way we do that is to have the thing at a level or distance the dog can handle, and then pair it with something the dog loves. So this is my analogy for this, which this is where, Rita, you'll have to just block your ears, because I know you've heard it before. Imagine, this is about counter conditioning and desensitizing, because I don't really want to use too many buzzwords, but it's hard to avoid these two. Imagine the only place that you can walk your dogs is in a very big field with a train line at the end. And the dog is terrified of trains, like Gail's dog is with the ninja, and your dog is all sorts of things. It's that level of fear. Now, the field is so big that there will be a distance where the dog is aware and can just hear and see the trains without being okay. Now, that's a threshold distance. The dog feels safe. Now, if you were to take him there, I don't know, 10 times a day, very slowly he might get a little bit nearer. Now, that's desensitizing. That's sort of, but that isn't enough. If from the comfortable distance, only from the comfortable distance, train comes and chicken rains from the sky, train goes, no chicken. Another train comes, chicken rains down. Gradually he begins to realize that the train triggers something good. Therefore, he will dare get a bit nearer until he's there, basically waiting for chicken. Now, the problem with what we do what we call flooding. And that is, we take the dog up to the train line, we hold on to the dog, and we say, you'll get used to it. Well, they don't always. It usually sends them back worse, okay? But this is the trouble with things that happen in life, like your fireworks. And it's like you're flooding them. You can't help it, because you can't get away from it, okay? And the other thing, which is just as bad, worse probably, is if, say, the train comes and the dog starts barking, instead of dropping food, the people think, oh, I mustn't feed the dog because it's like rewarding barking. So the train now starts being nasty because the person's frightened. And you may even tell the dog off, so even you get nasty as well. So basically, if the train, whatever it is, you can counter conditioning, it has to trigger the good stuff, whatever the dog's doing. Because if the dog's barking, it's all that means is you're too close and it's your fault. Okay, the thing can't be erratic, because if sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good, again, that's not going to help the dog feel secure, is it? Do you see? So that's easy when you have control over the train, over the whole situation. It's not easy when you have fireworks. It might go off one day, might go off 10 days, might go off in the morning, and the cooker might suddenly explode, and I know, Rachel, in your case, there are probably lots of little things which get him going, aren't there?
Right.
Okay. So there's various other ways of dealing with this. Some, I don't know if you heard of Grisha Stewart, and there's another thing called CAT, constructional aggression treatment, and all these things. That rewards the dog. Instead of making something good happen when the train comes, the way they do it is to keep to threshold distance. And if the dog doesn't react, they reward the dog by moving further away instead of giving it something positive. But it's much more difficult to it's much more difficult to do. And I don't think I don't do it. Okay. And the other thing, right, we've got two things. The two things we want to do now is to separate the counter conditioning from the desensitizing. Okay. Right. So if we have just desensitizing, like a bit as I was saying at the train, you just don't pair it with any food or anything. Just let the dog get used to it. That's habituation. So that means letting the dog get used to things, but at a distance that the dog can handle. So, a lot of things in the house, maybe before your ninja went and did that horrible thing, maybe he was a little bit uneasy with it, but over time he'd have got used to it. In general, I think a lot of dogs that say come from the other side of the world, they've been street dogs and the rest of it. A lot of them, they have everything is new. And so they, in a way, do gradually acclimatize and they habituate to a lot of it. But I think, like in your case, Rachel, they habituate to a lot of it, but there's certain things they don't habituate to, I would say. But when everything,
Right.
every creak and every noise and every smell, everything is new, it must be awful, mustn't it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So habituation is when you're just desensitizing, if you like, without the counter conditioning. The counter conditioning basically is the good stuff. The dog is conditioned to feel scared. Very good example with the ninja. Okay, so to counter condition means you've got to make it feel the opposite of scared. Okay, and it won't just to leave it to habituate, because it does get worse and worse and worse. So the counter condition, what I want to look at now is how you can manage the counter conditioning when you can't do the desensitizing. Basically, that means how can you manage to get the dog to feel better about these things without being able to increase distance or volume or anything, so that you're stuck with whatever life throws at you. You've got to okay. So basically, this is you, instead of setting it up so that you're working on certain things, you're going to work on, this is the experiment, that you work on things the environment coughs up anyway, things which are happening anyway. So the idea is, I mean, if it was my Cocker Spaniel is quite old now and he's totally deaf, so that doesn't work anymore. But I would say when he was younger, he alerts very quickly at everything, whether it's a big bang or whatever, he'll alert. Now, in this, what you need to do is to have a week or two where you're going to be about most of the time, because you can't just abandon him in the middle of it. You need to be around, or somebody does. And the idea is that you're going to deal with the sounds and the emergencies and the alarms that life actually brings anyway. So it can even be the smallest thing where you heard something, the dog just looks. Anything at all. Now, the idea is that you're going to use, the more of these things you have, the better. So you get yourself a pouch, of a treat pouch with a zip, so it keeps it, so it doesn't get the dog too much to jump at it. get something small and very tasty that you don't use for anything else, not something that you use for rewarding the dog for being good or anything, something which is unique. Okay, so that when the dog jumps, make these bits very, very small as well. You actually shower it with some food. So immediately you need to be fairly quick, shower it with some food. So the jump means food. So basically means you have to keep your eyes open. You won't be able to do it every time. Now, I did give this a bit of thought. I thought, well, okay, you have your food on you and there's something happens and you're the other side of the room. You could chuck the food at the dog, or for some reason you hadn't got food on you. I think you could use a word as a sort of bridge. Immediately, you say you hear a car door slamming, you can go, yes, and now get the food. Because the yes is, I don't know if have you done any clicker training? It's a bit like using a clicker. Say yes, and then get the food. But it's much better if the sound itself triggers the food. What will happen if you'll know when you're beginning to get quite good at this, because the dog will hear something, alert, and instead of getting fussed, he'll come to you for food. Mm. And that, in the case of fireworks, it means the best way, really, I think, I'm hoping, to prepare the dog for fireworks, because it's preparing for sudden things, sudden noises. I know the fireworks are probably going to be louder, but you once the dog realizes that anything sudden triggers food, then obviously you do that with the fireworks as well. I don't know how. I mean, I would say perhaps experiment with a week and see what happens, and see if at the end of that week the dog is actually coming to you for food, or maybe even less bothered about the alarming things, simply because every time they happen, or nearly every time they happen, they trigger something good. They don't, so yes. And then when it might happen, you need to, then the dog starts getting jumpy again after a few weeks. So you need to have another few days to do it again. And the other thing you can build into it is creating your own noises. If you think that the dog hasn't been jumpy for very long, you can walk past and sort of tap a pan lid, or bang a door, or drop something on the floor. Or you can use some of this firework simulation noises, in your computer or something. You can add noises to it, so that but basically it's the general day stuff. And I would say work at it and see what happens. Are you happy to do that?
Yeah.
Maybe you could as well, Rita. I mean, maybe
Yes.
Once you start looking at what's happening, you'll find the dog is actually alerting to a lot more things than you realize.
Well, you said about they might get to a point where they hear the noise and then they just look at you, expecting. I'm getting that with Bobby. Was we going, if someone approaches us, because he used to nip or go for, he sees him, he just looks at me now.
Really?
I give him a treat.
Oh, you must give him the food. That's exactly what you couldn't want any more, could you? That's just what you want. And it's exactly that.
Yeah.
The thing, in a way, is that dogs on walks are a little bit like this, because they come from nowhere, don't they? And you can't control them.
No.
So I'm hoping that if somebody has the time and makes a bit of progress with this, that then it could also carry on spreading to outside, and things like random things which happen outside as well. It may be that you need to start in the house, though, because outside there's so many other distractions and things away from it. What do you think? Will you give it a go?
Yeah, our English setter from Greece, was an abandoned hunting dog, and so he just was so scared of everything, when he was brought to our country. And so he, it was the inside sounds of like putting plates on the counter that would just send him, to the moon. Yes. It was I was walking him and he would see somebody, he would just cower behind me. Now he's to the point he really enjoys seeing people come towards us. He's not, cowering anymore. He's really made so much progress.
You have done miracles, haven't you? How long have you had him for, did you say?
For 5 of his almost 6 years. So, you know, and that's just a guess how old he is, but he's really with positive training classes, which we've taken here in Ohio. It's just, it's turned his life around, you know, using treats. We had to scatter hot dog pieces to get him into the training facility. He was that scared. And then we had to start with individual classes, and then he went to, you know, like tricks classes, and he was kind of the standout star, even though he was a little nervous about the other 5 dogs or so. But it's just amazing, you know. And the best thing was that our teacher, who we still have lots of contact with, she told us to keep a little journal, and to keep his progress, even though you think it's, you know, not much. Just kind of write in his progress, and looking back on that journal and seeing where he has come from is just phenomenal. I'm so glad she told us to do that.
You should write a book so other people could read it.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I have a lovely graphic, which I will I'll find you, I'll message you with it. It's a very nice graphic of a picture of front of a house with lots of little words on it, like creaking door, and all the things a new dog, how awful and frightening everything about a house is. And it's a really good graphic. I'll see if I can find it, the house graphic. That down.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes. Just to give her credit, this idea isn't really my idea. I read an article by Eileen Anderson, for the sake of the recording. Thank you, Eileen. And she calls it ad hoc counter-conditioning to noises. So it says using environmental noises that are happening anyway. And it says sometimes a dog is simply jumpy, scared of many sounds. Get some great treats and start carrying them around whenever there's any kind of sudden or startling new noise, including stray bangs and booms, as people test their noisemaker. Rain treats down on the dog. And so I would add to it also, if you hear a bang, you know, don't wait for the dog to bark.
Mm-hmm.
Be very, very, very good. Okay. So what do you think? Have you got anything you'd like to sort of run over with me or talk about or ask or anything? Anybody?
I wish everybody would do that. Would use, you know, high value treats and just have them close by. I think it's the way to go, definitely.
The thing is, it has to be you finding something the dog likes, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
Occasionally you get a dog that just isn't motivated with food. Then
yes.
maybe it loves a ball, you know, just got to find something which a dog loves.
Definitely.
And also, when the dog is really terrified, it won't eat, will it?
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm.
The thing I find worse is when Bella starts barking.
Yes.
I don't know if he's scared of her barking or if he's just coming to tell me that she's barking.
Well, let me tell you what happens with my 2 dogs. I've got 2 elderly dogs now. Pickle, my Cocker Spaniel, he's deaf. He's the one who would bark and things. And I've got my Labrador is blind, but my Labrador can hear. So what happens in my house is if somebody were to knock on the door now or something bang outside, my Labrador who can hear it will go. And that is enough for my Cocker Spaniel to jump out. Boom, 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 boom. So it's a bit the same thing, really. He's watching her, and that's what he does. He hasn't heard anything, but he can see she has.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's a little bit like it, isn't it? Wonder what you can do. So I suppose the best thing to do would be do a little bit more about your other dog's barking. I mean, if it is barking at things going past the window, give it a go.
Yeah, I do try and get her, like, every time she starts barking, I'll say, right, come to your bed and give her some piece of cheese or something. Yes. And then if she goes back without barking, she'll have another piece of cheese or whatever.
And you may be working on the wrong dog, of course. So if she barks, and what is your spaniel's name?
My Cocker Spaniel's called Harry.
Harry.
He's 2, and the other one is a Springer called Bella, and she's
All right.
3.5.
Okay, so it's Harry who is jumping up
He's
at you.
the one that's going like this with the claws.
But I think he's telling you, I'm a bit scared, I'm scared, I'm scared.
Yes.
I would say that you could counter condition that. So instead of basically telling him to stop, you could actually, if he hears something which worries him, give him food.
Yeah.
Try, but don't put it in his mouth. Drop it on the floor. The point being, he's got to get down to get that, and then he's got to search for it on the floor, and that searching also helps him get. Try that. The minute your other dog barks, for now, just forget about the other dog barking. When Harry comes over to you, you might even be able to do it before he does this. Say it's okay and drop some food on the floor.
Yeah.
But that way, because your other one is the trigger for him to feel alarmed, isn't it? So you could try that, couldn't you? And the other thing you could try with your ninja idea is as soon as it goes on, he runs out of the room. Is that right?
Yeah.
How far does he go away from the door of the room if you leave the door open?
He'll go into his crate, which is behind me, and the kitchen's in the next room that way.
So can he hear it? He can hear it going, can't he?
Oh yeah, he's fine. He can hear it, but he'll go in the crate.
Well, I'm just wondering how you can help him. Is it likely to make that noise ever again?
Oh, it goes whoosh when the pressure gets released. So
okay, so it does that all the time.
I always make sure he's not in the kitchen.
But if you were going to try to work on it and counter condition it, you would have to find a distance from it that he was okay. You'd have to perhaps go to his crate with him, have someone do that, and every time your machine makes any noise at all, shower him with food.
Yeah.
And then maybe after you've done that for a while, sit on the floor or something a little bit nearer the kitchen door, so he has to come out of his crate, so he's a little bit nearer. If you worked on it, you would get it. He'd begin to realize it wasn't going to hurt him. But that would be counter conditioning, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Anyway, I would look out for anything which alarms them, especially yours, Rachel. Any little thing now. Maybe maybe that last little bit that you've still got to go. Now he's not got the medication anymore. Maybe this will help.
Right.
Really interesting to see. And Rita, what can we do about what is it, Ted?
Poppy.
Oh, Poppy, yes.
Bobby. Yes. Well, the business outside is mainly our problem. It's all the stimulation from outside, and he is getting. The more we work on it, he is getting better. It's just eliminating everything, and it does, but he's come big. Honestly, he used to have a problem with little scooters, kids on scooters, prams, bicycles, people. That's all fine.
Okay, so it's electric scooters, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, sometimes he does other things, but it's when it's a surprise. He's been caught unawares.
It's sudden, isn't it? Everything's sudden. Does he, I've forgotten, but does he like a ball?
Oh, he's obsessed.
Now, I think I probably said to you, starve him of the ball, didn't I?
Yes, yeah.
Right, well, I would say if he's obsessed with balls, that gets him too wired, but you take that ball on your walk with you, put it in your pocket, and you have got the best thing. An electric scooter comes along, bounce the ball in front of him. Because the beauty of that is the scooter is moving, which is sudden, and you've now got something else to catch his eye, which is moving.
Yes.
So you can redirect it. That's how. Don't go and throw it for fun. Don't throw it in the field. He doesn't want to get all worked up and hyped. There's plenty of lovely stuff in the countryside without chasing balls. But if you take it with you, you can probably find that would do the trick. Be ready for anything like that, which really gets him going, which really, that's too much for just giving him food, isn't it? He won't look at you. I would do that.
Yeah, honestly, with those thing by scooters, he won't. I've tried the food, and
Try a ball. Try also, if you know that scooters tend to go down one side of the road, go the other side of the road and wait about for a scooter to go past.
Yeah.
So the chaps can do that with several scooters from the other side of the road. I'm sure if you concentrated on it for a while, you could get him a lot better.
Yeah.
That will give you the distance, like being the other side of the field.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Until one comes your side of the road and wrecks it all, of course.
They're always on the pavement.
I know. They're illegal, aren't they? Apart from places where you can rent them. Do you have these all over the place, Rachel? These electric scooters?
Not too much. We're in kind of a town of about 20,000 people or so. No, we don't really have a lot of. They used to have them, bird scooters is what they called them, but I don't know. The company went out of business, so now we hardly have any.
Well, perhaps they'll go out of fashion. I'm going to turn this